Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching the news. Let's begin with the headlines first. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates Biplabi Bharat Gallery in Kolkata, expresses concern over Birbhum violence. "22 people arrested in Bengal's Birbhum violence case. Chief Minister directs strict action against the culprits. BJP seeks Mamata Banerjee's resignation. Parliament approves budget and supplementary demands of Jammu and Kashmir. Pushkar Singh Dhami takes over as Uttarakhand Chief Minister for the second time. 8 ministers also sworn in. India achieves $400 billion exports target 9 days ahead of schedule. Prime Minister calls it an important milestone in the journey of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Let's now take a look at some other important news quickly. Union Home Ministry to end all COVID-19 containment measures from 31st of March. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla inaugurates 3-day interactive program for MPs with presentations by Padma awardees. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya inspects India's first mobile biosafety 3 lab manufactured by ICMR in Delhi. Pushkar Singh Dhami takes oath as Chief Minister of Uttarakhand for the second time. BJP leader Ramapati Shastri appointed Uttar Pradesh Pro Tem Speaker. Prime Minister Modi speaks to UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Ukraine situation, reiterates India's appeal for end to hostilities. Supreme Court directs Bihar government to file action taken report in Muzaffarpur shelter home sexual assault case. 11 workers killed in fire at scrap godown in Hyderabad. Prime Minister Modi announces ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees. An IT department conducts searches at several premises of two-wheeler manufacturer Hero Motocorp in connection with tax evasion. World tennis number 1 Ashley Barty retires within 2 months of winning 3rd Grand Slam in the Australian Open. And now some news in detail. Prime Minister Modi on Wednesday expressed grief over violent incidents in Birbhum, West Bengal. He expressed hope that West Bengal government will get the culprits punished. 8 people, including 2 children, were burned to death in Birbhum after their houses were set on fire.
मैं पश्चिम बंगाल के बीरभूम में हुई हिंसक वारदात पर दुख व्यक्त करता हूं, अपनी संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं आशा करता हूं कि राज्य सरकार बंगाल की महान धरती पर ऐसा जघन्य पाप करने वालों को जरूर सजा दिलवाएगी।
The Birbhum violence issue also figured in the Lok Sabha on Wednesday. BJP MP Sukanta Majumdar demanded the intervention of the centre, alleging that there was a breakdown of law and order in the state. The Calcutta High Court also took suo motu cognizance of the violence in Birbhum. The court called for a report from the state government on the incident in which 8 people were killed. A BJP MLA delegation led by BJP leader Subhendu Adhikari visited Rampur Hat. Adhikari said the Chief Minister, who also holds the Home Affairs portfolio, has failed to discharge her duty and should resign immediately. West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar targeted Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee over the violence. He accused the state government of shielding the culprits. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has expressed grief over the accident, accusing the opposition of conspiracy. She said the incident should not be politicized. She also assured strict action against the culprits. 22 people have been arrested so far in connection with the violence in Rampur Hat in Birbhum district. A special investigation team of the CID, Gyanwant Singh, is probing the incident. 8 people, including 2 children, were burned to death in the violence that followed the alleged murder of a TMC leader. Unity, integrity of India should be our top priority, asserted Prime Minister Modi on Wednesday. He was speaking at the inauguration of Biplabi Bharat Gallery at Victoria Memorial Hall in Kolkata on Martyrs Day through video conference. The Prime Minister said any attempt to undermine the unity and integrity of the country will be the biggest betrayal of the freedom fighters of India.
भारत को गुलामी के सैकड़ों वर्षों के कालखंड से आजादी 3 धाराओं के संयुक्त प्रयासों से मिली थी। एक धारा थी क्रांति की, दूसरी धारा सत्याग्रह की और तीसरी धारा थी जन जागृति और रचनात्मक कामों की।
And time now for some more news from the Parliament. Abrogation of Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir has led to a drop in terrorist activities and an enabling environment for investment. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman stated this in Rajya Sabha while replying to a discussion on the budget of Jammu and Kashmir and its related supplementary demand for grants. She added that impediments to industrial development have been removed in Jammu and Kashmir. Post-abrogation of Article 377, 890 central laws have been implemented in the Union Territory, 250 discriminatory laws repealed and 137 laws amended.
So I just would want to place this to say, with these kind of containments very clearly happening, the environment for normalcy and also for attracting investments are happening. Benefits must reach those sections which have been very much denied of so much of socio-economic developments and benefits.
Rajya Sabha returned a 1.42 lakh crore rupees budget and appropriation bill for Jammu and Kashmir for 2022-23. After the discussion, the Lok Sabha approved the bill on 14th of March. The government is planning to build 220 new airports by 2025. Replying to the debate in Lok Sabha on the demand for grants for the civil aviation sector, Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiruditya Scindia said India had recorded substantial growth during the COVID pandemic. He said the cargo flights carrying perishable food items will be increased by 30% to 133 in the coming years.
हमारा ये संकल्प है कि ये जो 140 का आंकड़ा आज है, 2025 तक इस आंकड़े को हम 220 तक ले जाकर आपके समक्ष रखेंगे, ये हम आपको विश्वास दिलाते हैं। निवेश के लिए 470 करोड़ रुपए निवेश का भाग है और जब हमने वित्त मंत्रालय को दिखाया कि हमारी क्षमता ज्यादा है खर्च करने के लिए, तो रिवाइज्ड एस्टिमेट में वो 600 करोड़ को बढ़ाकर उन्होंने 994 करोड़ किया, मतलब 66% वृद्धि की।
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Greek counterpart at Hyderabad House in Delhi. Both held delegation-level talks on bilateral relations and regional and international issues of mutual interest. Many agreements were also signed. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had visited Athens in June last year. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has asked educational institutions to play a bigger role in achieving sustainable development goals. Inaugurating the annual meeting of the Association of Indian Universities virtually, the Vice President said colleges and universities contribute through measures like research, policy development and effective implementation of the Sustainable Development Policy.
Is of critical importance. Primary, secondary and higher education institutions need to be consciously adopt practices that lead to the achievement of SDGs. Colleges and universities have a bigger role to play in this regard. It's very key for this achieving these goals. They can contribute in a number of ways such as research, policy development and engagement with societies for creating awareness and effective implementation of sustainable development strategies.
Now some more news from the states. Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha flagged off the spring run for a drug-free Srinagar near the Dal Lake today. Thousands of youth took part in the race and pledged to live a life free of drug addiction. The budget session of the Delhi Assembly started with the speech of Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal on Wednesday. Baijal said the corona pandemic had halved economic growth in 2020-21. He, however, added that Delhi government, along with centre, did a good job in containing it. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal told the Vidhan Sabha that the AAP governments in Delhi and Punjab will display photographs of Baba Saheb Ambedkar and Shahid Bhagat Singh in government offices in place of the Chief Minister. Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann paid tributes to Shahid Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru at the Shahid Bhagat Singh Museum and Memorial in Khatkar Kala on Martyrs' Day. He also launched anti-corruption helpline in the state. Anti-COVID-19 vaccination for 12 to 14 years age group has started in Madhya Pradesh. In Bhopal, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan appealed to people to get vaccinated. The state has about 30 lakh children in this age group. In Uttar Pradesh, high school and intermediate examinations will start from tomorrow. 51,92,000 candidates will appear in the high school and intermediate examinations from 24th of March till April 12th. The examinations will be in 2 shifts. After 3 months, new cases of African swine fever were reported again in Mizoram. In some villages, pigs have died from the disease. Following the death of a boar, it has been declared a containment zone. Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar has opened for tourists. Located on the banks of the Dal Lake at the foot of the Jabarwa Hills, the tulip garden is spread over about 30 hectares. 2 pairs of white-winged wood ducks, one of the most endangered bird species globally, have been brought from a Czech zoo and housed in the Assam State Zoo in Guwahati. Right now, both pairs have been quarantined for 45 days. Let's now move over to business and economy. India has achieved the ambitious goods export target of $400 billion ahead of schedule for the financial year 2021 till 22nd March 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated farmers, weavers, MSMEs, small businesses, manufacturers and exporters for this success. He called it a key milestone in India's Atmanirbhar Bharat journey. The merchandise export target of $400 billion has been achieved 9 days ahead of the schedule, with an average of $1 billion goods exported every day.
A very important milestone in our journey towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, a country which is self-confident, which provides for its needs, where people respect domestically made products, but we are able to work with the rest of the world from a position of strength. We are able to take on challenges of all sorts, compete on our quality, compete on the strength of our innovative products that we make.
Cash from the softening bond market flew back to equity, which resulted in major Asian indices hitting a 3-week high on Wednesday. However, fear of Ukrainian crisis to stretch longer kept the enthusiasm in control. But it did not stop Nikkei 225 from gaining 3% or 816 points. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was up 1.25%, while Taiwan waited and Kospi also gained around 1%. Taking a cue from US and Asian markets, Indian stock markets started the day's trade with gains. However, profit booking at higher levels pulled the markets in the red zone. Auto, financial services and PSU banks shares witnessed maximum selling. Bombay Stock Exchange's Sensex lost more than 304 points and closed at 57,685 levels. At National Stock Exchange, the Nifty 50 was down around 70 points or 0.4%. It closed the trade at 17,246. And we'll take a short break, but coming up after the break, mapping the refugee crisis in Europe.
Those in favor, please say aye.
जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए,
I think the ayes have it.
हवालों के पक्ष में हुआ।
Ayes have it. The bill is passed.
Welcome back. Let's now take a look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict news. Ukraine has accused Russia of seizing 15 rescue workers from a humanitarian convoy that was trying to deliver food and other supplies into the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Ukrainian forces also claim to have retaken a strategic suburb of Kiev on Tuesday, while the fight for Mariupol continues. Meanwhile, UN Chief Antonio Guterres said the war is unwinnable, even as he urged both sides to talk peace.
This war is unwinnable. Sooner or later, it will have to move from the battlefield to the peace table. And that is inevitable. The only question is how many more lives must be lost? How many more bombs must fall? How many Mariupols must be destroyed? How many more Ukrainians and Russians?
The UN chief's question notwithstanding, the bombs keep falling, reducing entire cities in Ukraine to rubble. In Kiev, firefighters recorded the highest number of emergency calls so far on Wednesday. Russian army videos showed a relentless advance into Ukrainian territories. It tried to convey that Mariupol was under its control, with the Russian army at the city's major establishments like airports. However, Chancellor Olaf Scholz told the German parliament that despite all the destruction that it is bringing day after day, Putin's offensive is stuck. American defense experts also raised doubts on Russian claims. They say that Ukraine has actually gained some lost ground.
Russian forces is anything other than an aggressor, an occupier. And that fierce and perhaps unexpected resistance may well explain why Putin has employed such force against this particular civilian population. The brave people of Mariupol are putting the lie to Putin's claims, and the Kremlin is reacting with characteristic.
Ukraine claims 1 lakh people are still living in Mariupol without water, food and medicine. The area is under complete siege with constant bombarding. President Zelensky said he was trying his best to bring Russia to peace table. But right now, peace is the most elusive commodity in Ukraine. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
More than 3.5 billion people have fled abroad from the war in Ukraine. United Nations data shows that while fewer people have crossed borders over the past week, the scale of the task of providing homes to those seeking safety in the European Union is becoming increasingly apparent in Eastern and Central Europe.
Heart-wrenching goodbyes of family in Lviv. It's a common sight these days in Ukraine. The constant bombing has forced millions of Ukrainians out of their homes and take shelter in the neighboring countries. UNHRC estimates 36,26,000 people have crossed the Ukraine borders to save their lives. More than 21 lakh people have taken shelter in Poland, while 5.5 lakh people reached Romania. Moldova has given refuge to 3.71 lakh people, Hungary 3.34 lakh, while 2.56 lakh people have come to Slovakia.
UNHCR is shipping urgently needed relief items, mattresses, warm blankets, tarpaulins to fix buildings to Ukraine, but the needs are far higher. The needs are far above what humanitarian assistance can cover so far, and a lot of support is given by the cities and by local communities.
UNHRC estimates 4 million people may flee Ukraine. The International Organization for Migration estimates that nearly 6.5 million people are internally displaced within Ukraine, suggesting that some might flee abroad if the war continues. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And time now for some more news from around the world. Search parties recover one of the two black box recorders of the China Eastern flight that crashed in southern China on Monday. Officials said the device is so damaged that investigators are not able to tell whether it is the flight data recorder or the cockpit voice recorder. China's state media showed pieces of the Boeing 737-800 plane scattered in the fields and burnt out patches. Flight 5735 went into an unexplained dive an hour after the departure, and the plane stopped transmitting data 96 seconds into the fall. It had 132 people on board. And in some other news from around the world, over the next 2 weeks, New Zealand will remove many of its COVID-19 virus regulations. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said people will no longer need to be vaccinated to visit places like retail stores, restaurants and bars from 4th of April. Gone too will be a requirement to scan QR barcodes on those venues. Also gone from Friday is a limit on outdoor crowds of 100 that will allow some concerts and big sporting events like marathons to resume. French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron and his Spanish counterpart Pedro Sanchez met in Paris to discuss rising energy prices ahead of a European summit dedicated to the impact of war in Ukraine. The French president said they were discussing options to limit the cost of rising gas and electricity prices and come up with a European plan to increase the 26 nation bloc's storage capabilities. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau arrived in Belgium on Wednesday for an emergency NATO summit in Brussels. He will also visit European Union officials. The Thursday summit will discuss Russian invasion of Ukraine and its increasingly hostile stance towards the West, where NATO members and other European allies are strengthening their defenses. Polish President Andrzej Duda called for a new strategic vision for NATO due to Russia's unprecedented aggression in Ukraine. He made his comments from Bucharest alongside Romanian President Klaus Iohannis. The strategic concept is NATO's mission statement. It covers security challenges facing NATO members and their approach for responding to threats. NATO is holding a summit in Brussels on Thursday that US President Joe Biden will also attend. Two US firefighters were injured batting a massive blaze at PepsiCo's factory in New Jersey. PepsiCo said that all employees and people who were in the facility have been evacuated with no injuries. There was no sign of a potential collapse of the structure. One firefighter suffered heat exhaustion while the other injured his shoulder. And on to some sports news now. Today, let us start with tennis. In an unexpected move, world number one Ashley Barty has announced her retirement from the sport. She hasn't competed since winning her home Grand Slam, the Australian Open, in January, and now in an Instagram update revealed her decision to hang up her racket for good at just 25 years of age. Barty held the world number one ranking for a period of 113 consecutive weeks and 120 overall. Barty is just the second player to retire as world number one, following Justin Henin in 2008. The Australian's career achievements include winning 3 Grand Slam singles title, 2019 Roland Garros, 2021 Wimbledon Championship, and of course the 2022 Australian Open as well. She also won the 2018 US Open doubles title. On the tour, Barty won an additional 12 titles, including the WTA finals in 2019. Rafael Nadal has suffered rib fracture and will be sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks. It has all come crashing down for Nadal, who was having an incredible year, which was suddenly been turned upside down. At the Indian Wells final last week, The Spaniard had issues with his chest and had trouble breathing as well. Upon further examination by Nadal's medical team, it was revealed that he has suffered a stress crack in the third rib. Nadal had a 20-0 record for the season before losing in the Indian Wells final. The king of the clay was looking forward to his favourite clay court season, but now is set to be out for between 4 to 6 weeks and almost certainly won't compete at the Monte Carlo Masters or the Barcelona Open. Nadal has won the clay Grand Slam French Open a record 13 times. In cricket now, Australia took a crucial 123 runs lead in the first innings against Pakistan in the Lahore Test match. Replying to Australia's first innings score of 391, Pakistan collapsed from 3 down for 248 to 268 all out, losing 7 wickets for just 20 runs. Australia's captain Pat Cummins took 5 wickets for 56 and his pace partner Mitchell Starc took 4 for 33. Australia were 11 for no loss in their second innings at end of play on day 3. After a day's gap, action will resume in the Women's World Cup tomorrow with 2 important matches scheduled to be played. South Africa will take on West Indies in Wellington and defending champions England will play Pakistan. All teams other than Pakistan are in contention for a semi-final berth in the competition. India will have a keen eye on the proceedings at the Women's World Cup tomorrow. Mithali Raj's team are currently placed third in the points table behind Australia and South Africa. India plays South Africa on Sunday, 27th March, which is the last match of the first round of the tournament. And the BCCI today has confirmed that 25% of crowd capacity will be allowed in the stadiums for the upcoming season of the Indian Premier League IPL 2022. The 15th edition of the IPL is set to start in Mumbai on Saturday. The IPL 2022 is to be staged in Maharashtra with 55 league matches across 3 venues in Mumbai and 15 matches in Pune. Moving to boxing now, in the first ever women's boxing world title fight held in UAE, India's Urvashi Singh defeated Tanzania's Halima Wanzabe for the vacant Women's International Boxing Association Super Bantamweight title. Urvashi is the first Indian to win the title. Urvashi won the 12-round bout in the 4th round itself by knocking out Halima. In Washington, the return of the annual National Cherry Blossom Festival is making the re-emergence from 2 years of pandemic closures. This year's cherry blossom trees will reach peak bloom by March 25th.
2 years ago, the steadily advancing COVID-19 virus raised questions as to whether the National Cherry Blossom Festival would happen at all. Sure enough, within days, the administration declared a public health emergency and banned all mass gatherings. Festival organizers spent the month frantically coming up with safe long-distance ways for residents and visitors to enjoy the annual rite of spring. Local officials had to close down streets and metro stations in order to keep crowd from gathering to observe the pinkish blooms. It has been so for the last 2 years. Visitors to the festival say the risk of COVID is not gone, but it's a lot lower before the Omicron variant. This year marks the 110th anniversary of the original 1912 gift of 3,000 Japanese cherry trees from the mayor of Tokyo. Japan's government remains heavily involved in the festival and regularly replaces about 90 trees each year. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And before we close the bulletin, let's take a relook at the headlines. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates Biplabi Bharat Gallery in Kolkata, expresses concern over Birbhum violence. 22 people arrested in Bengal's Birbhum violence case. Chief Minister directs strict action against the culprits. BJP seeks Mamata Banerjee's resignation. Parliament approves budget and supplementary demand of grants for Jammu and Kashmir. Pushkar Singh Dhami takes over as Uttarakhand Chief Minister for the second time. 8 ministers also sworn in. And India achieves a $400 billion exports target 9 days ahead of schedule. Prime Minister calls it an important milestone in the journey of Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's all in today's The News. We'll come back again tomorrow. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.